Tonight on Prime Business, Petroleum expert says reintroduction of some levies on the price build-up is to blame as escalating transport fares shoot up June's year-on-year inflation to 29.8%, the highest in 19 years.
Unfortunately, prices went up just because the MPA chose to restore the UPPF on the price build-up.
Details coming shortly as we begin with commodities. Now, year-on-year inflation shot up further to 29.8% in June this year. Latest data from the Ghana Statistical Service has revealed. Now, this is the highest recorded since December 2003, making it 19 years. The rate of inflation was once again driven by transport, which recorded 41.6%. And according to the data, food inflation surged to 30.7% in June this year from 30.1% recorded in May 2022. The following report has more details.
Despite recording a historic rise in inflation, the rate recorded in June has slowed as compared to the recent months. The eastern region continued to lead as the region with the highest inflation rate, driven largely by hike in food prices. Food inflation maintained its dominance, followed by transport fares, which recorded rates higher than the national average. Here is government statistician Professor Samuel Kobna Enim explaining the drivers of inflation at a virtual press conference in Accra.
Rate of inflation for the month of June 2022 stood at 29.8% year-on-year inflation, indicating a 2.2 percentage point increase in rate of inflation compared to May 2022. From a regional perspective, we identified the eastern region recording the highest rate of inflation of 35.8% and the upper east region the least inflation of 21.0%. From a food and non-food perspective, we recorded food inflation of 30.7% for the month of June 2022 and non-food recording an inflation rate of 29.1%. It should be indicated that we saw a much steeper increase in non-food inflation, rising by 3.4% from May 2022 to June 2022.
Inflation for locally produced items have also slowed at 29.2%, as compared to the rate of inflation for imported items, which recorded 31.3%.
From a domestic inflation and imported inflation perspective, we respectively recorded inflation rates of 29.2% and 31.3%. So for the third time in a row, we see imported inflation recording rates higher than the domestic inflation, otherwise known as locally produced items.
The data on prices of goods and services are collected from 44 markets across the country.
Now, the issue of rising inflation will not leave anytime soon, as the Institute of Economic Affairs is urging government to take overall responsibility for the current crisis. It therefore wants a pragmatic approach to tackle the challenge. Director of Research, Dr. John Kwache, has been speaking at a roundtable discussion on the topic Rethinking Inflation Management in Ghana. And of course, the following report has more.
Proposing a new approach to address the rise in inflation, which hits 27.6 in May 2022, the economic think tank said the government should consider eliminating or reducing numerous fuel taxes and levies, among other measures such as adequate food to reduce the high demand. Director of Research, Dr. John Kwache, said the government must adopt a realistic strategy to help bring down the rate of inflation.
The nature of Ghana's inflation requires concerted efforts by Bank of Ghana and government. Bank of Ghana retains the primary responsibility and autonomy for controlling inflation. In fact, even in major countries such as US and UK, governments have made inflation control a top policy priority and are taking measures to complement their central bank's actions. The same approach is needed here. We don't have to be working in silos. That maybe government is here and Bank of Ghana is here. No, that will not work. They should be working together. Now, government, I think, should take overall responsibility for the inflation crisis because they are the elected managers of the economy. Nobody should push it on Bank of Ghana. Government should take, responsibility for it and direct Bank of Ghana to carry out its mandate.
Dr. Kwache also shed light on the major drivers of inflation so far.
The figures also show Ghanaians experience different rates of inflation and different degrees of economic hardship, depending on what goods and services you predominantly consume. Okay, so when the statistical service says inflation is 27.6%, all of us are not experiencing that inflation. Some are experiencing 80%. Some are experiencing 15%. Okay, depending on what you consume most. Again, let me say that we are not in any way suggesting that we have all the answers to managing inflation. We just want to promote a public discourse.
Ghana has history of high inflation compared to peers in Africa and elsewhere. In the 1980s and 1990s, inflation was in high double digits. Over the last 20 years, however, inflation declined significantly along with improvement in general macroeconomic performance. Empirical literature identifies fiscal policy, food and exchange rate as key drivers of Ghana's inflation.
Now, one of the key drivers to June's all-time high inflation is that of transport. The government statistician has indicated that Ghanaians paid more for transport between June last year and this year, by a whopping 41.6%. Now, speaking earlier on Business Live, the executive director at the Institute for Energy Security, Nana Mosidi 7, says the reintroduction of some levies on the price build-up is to blame because the price of global Brent crude has been dropping by almost $4 since last week.
Unfortunately, we are yet to see that very drop in price on the international markets reflect on the local markets. And this can largely be blamed on the continuous or consistent decline in the value of the cedi against the US dollar, because we use the dollar to import these products. Again, it can also be blamed on the introduction of levies that were suspended. And I can mention the UPPF that was reintroduced. Although the IES projected that fuel prices were going to drop the last 2 weeks, except for gas oil, unfortunately, prices went up just because the MPA chose to restore the UPPF on the price build-up. And so these are the two major factors. But I also can mention that although price on international markets are dipping, the importers, being the BDCs, are still buying these products at a premium. And that premium has not dipped. And so you still have some form of another cost component in there. But let's talk about the UPPF and the cedi depreciation. These are the two factors. Major factors.
Meanwhile, petroleum strategist Dr. Ayitey has called for some strategic tax cuts on petrol products to manage the situation.
if we have to be able to balance our imports and exports. If we are able to, most of the imports that we are doing, if we can source it locally, it's going to help in a great deal. If you look at in recent times, what has happened to US, US case could have been worse, but they're able to release about 145 million, barrels of crude oil, petroleum product into the market, just to cushion the market, to stay afloat, But we don't have that capability. Now, lastly, what I will say is that, this market moving to a trajectory of too much taxation, it is not a very good thing for our nation.
All right.
Taxation, as I always mention, is like a double-edged sword. We have to look at taxation in the way of its ability to stimulate economic growth. I don't know if you take taxation in this current form, where we are always interested in revenue generation, without thinking about how we can stimulate economic growth with the same taxation, it's going to be difficult. And the only way taxation can stimulate economic growth is tax cuts, strategic tax cuts.
Great.
If we do tax cuts strategically, it will stimulate economic growth because more consumers will, at the end of the day, will consume. And then the government can even get more taxes at the end of the day.
Now, the Secretariat of the African Continental Free Trade Area has been urged to deepen its engagement with business communities to take advantage of the Single Pact. According to the former president of the Canada-Ghana Chamber of Commerce, Alhaji Natongba Abdullahi, the Secretariat would have to sensitize organizations and other trade partners on the operations for transparency. He spoke to Joy Business at the annual general meeting of the Chamber.
According to Alhaji Abdullahi, the African Continental Free Trade Area needs a strategic framework for delivering on Africa's goal for inclusive and sustainable development. In promoting intra-regional connectivity, he urged the Secretariat to work assiduously to educate members of the general business community to cushion and expand their businesses.
Some members would definitely are definitely advantage of the African Continental Trade as soon as it was launched or as now. But it's not everybody who understands or who would join the band, but they will watching others go and then they will follow up. Because most of our members are all were looking into Canada for business, looking to Canada for money, looking to Canada for partnership. But we're making a U-turn and coming home to Africa, back here.
On inflation, ex-official member of the chamber, Salah Kalmoni, indicated that the current rate of inflation is affecting the business of the chamber.
Obviously, one of the things which is happening in Ghana, the inflation is very high. And when inflation is very high, this not only is a challenge for businesses, but it's also a challenge for the consumers. Another challenge also for businesses and consumers when the fiscal difficulties is that the CD interest rates goes high. I know it was around 14%, now it's about 17 to 20%. So these are some of the challenges which are in the domain of the government.
Now, organizations are being urged to factor risk management in their strategies as the business world is evolving. According to its acting chief risk and compliance officer at MTN Ghana, Winifred Seto-Smith, antagonists of digitalization cause increasing cyber attacks which hinder the development of companies. Speaking on the site of Risk Summit Africa, she admonished organizations to invest in cybersecurity to enable them to fully benefit from digitalization.
Risk Summit Africa, the two-day event held by Innovari, a management consultancy and technology services company, seeks to highlight the importance of risk management and creating risk culture in companies, especially amid growing cyber attacks. Here's Acting Chief Risk and Compliance Officer for MTN Ghana, Winifred Seto-Smith.
As we focus on digitalization, we're trying to make things easier. Let us also not forget that the bad actors are also trying to make their business better. So that what we see is that cyber attacks will increase. People will want to capitalize on how we do things, make things easier by digitalization to also increase cybersecurity. So what we should try to do when we are digitalizing our processes is also focus on how best can we make sure that we have all those security measures in place. First of all, the fundamental control in cybersecurity is access control. We have a lot of dependencies on third parties, our people, and on the infrastructure. How do we make sure that we are focusing on the key controls that will protect us from bad actors within our digitalization programs?
Enterprise risk management consultant Na Adokokujo emphasized that a resilient company is one that involves risk management in their strategies.
It's so critical for organizations to ensure that risk management is embedded across the organization over their processes and their systems, because what's the essence of having a strategy when you don't think about what could go wrong? If something goes wrong, it impacts your reputation, it impacts your bottom line, and I think that you could get derailed. So it's so critical that when we are setting our strategies, we should also pause to think about what could go wrong, and also have in our organizations professionals who can help us monitor these risks and even identify the risks that are emerging, and help the organization to situate itself so that it can thrive and also become resilient. You can't be resilient as an organization without proper risk management process.
Chief Executive of Innovari, CK Bruce, explained that the adoption of risk management by companies in Ghana is very low, reason the summit was organized.
Not many companies have risk management departments. It's only perhaps in the banking industry, and banking industry is highly regulated. So you would see that it is part of a requirement, of a regulatory requirement, which makes them set up risk, departments. So the relevance and the adoption of risk management is still quite in early stages, I would say, in Ghana. So it's important that we ensure that it is adopted more and more by all enterprises in all industries.
Now, this year's edition of the EcoBank Joy News Habitat Fair will be launched tomorrow, the 14th of July, at the EcoBank head office. This is the 13th edition of the event since its inception. The first seeks to give various stakeholders the opportunity to explore the real estate market. Here is General Manager for Sales and Marketing at the Multimedia Group, Max Fugger.
Yes, it is important that every young man, every young woman, every young lady, every worker, whether it is lower income, middle income, upper income, whatever, it is important to come, because it will help you make a decision where you should live. Our exhibitors will help you make a decision. Our suppliers will help you make a decision. And the good thing is that we'll be running seminars, okay, as part of this year's fair. We'll run seminars, and where we'll have opportunity to educate people, our resource persons, to educate people on how to acquire land. Because like we said, where you live matters. How to acquire land, how to build, or how to rent. If it's about renting, how you should rent, and what factors you should consider before renting. So it is important, because you will learn, and then you will help you make that decision in regards to where you want to live. So I will encourage every young person to be there. And the interesting thing again is that this year we are doing 2 clinics. Okay, because of constraint of time, we are doing 2 clinics instead of the normal 3 that we do. We will do the first one at Achimota Mall, and then we'll do the second one at the West Hills Mall. The Achimota Mall one will take place from 22nd to 24th of July. The West Hills Mall will take place from the 5th to 7th August this year. The fair itself will be officially launched tomorrow, Thursday, at the EcoBank headquarters. We'll have the MD of EcoBank and the Chief Operating Officer of Multimedia putting or organizing or launching the products tomorrow. Yes, this year we are organizing clinics, Besides the clinics that are taking place before, we'll have the seminars. We'll have the seminars. So the key factor or the unique thing about this year's fair is that we are going to organize seminars, themed seminars that will educate people and also give people the opportunity to ask questions as to where they want to live and what factors should influence them in choosing the place they want to live.
You may not want to miss this year's edition of the Joy News Habitat Fair. But away from that, how do you manage your talents, let alone your business without the ability to see? Well, Vincent De Paul is doing just that in a way that has set him apart as one of the talented typewriting entrepreneurs in the Central Business District of Accra. My colleague Beverly Broom tells us more in her report.
When was the last time you patronized the service of a typewriter? Well, with the advent of technology, many people resort to their phones and laptops to type their script. But one man continues to hold the torch of typewriting. Today, I have come to Nima to meet Mr. Vincent De Paul. He is visually impaired and he is a typewriter. He has been doing this for the past 40 years. What motivates him and how is he able to work? Let's hear his story. Business is a source of life. It dictates your survival in society. But what does it take for one to run a business? A capital and maybe being able-bodied. However, the story of Vincent De Paul is quite different. He is visually impaired. Despite this, he runs a business, one that requires someone of full sight. So how does he manage it?
First, I do touch typewriting. I used to read and type, but now getting to some point when the sight was getting bad, I learned audio typing, which I didn't learn at the college. When I'm on the typewriter and you tell me, okay, when you talk, I type. After that, you read and see whether it's okay. If it's not okay, then we redo it. That's what I do. This is the courage. This is the knob. If I make a mistake, then maybe if I call someone he cannot see, the person cannot see well into the typewriter, I roll it up. When rolling up, the ratchet 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I roll it up so that the person can see. When if the person can see and tells me where I've gotten to, then I count and bring it down to scale. Then that's the method that also helps me.
The obvious question is, what caused his visual impairment?
I was born at Takwa in Sutawasa. I was born there after I think 1957, 58. Then we were sent to the north, Naidoli, north, the Dagat, Upper West region. And then there I was made to take care of sheep and then cows. In the bush, the black fly, that when it bites you get ankle. That's river blindness. So that made me have the sight problem when I got to class primary 4. So it started early, not that age has made my sight. No. At the moment, doctors say they cannot do anything about it, and the glasses too are not helping now.
Despite his lack of sight, he continues to pursue a passion which was once a vital job, typewriting. It's a space that is fast dwindling due to the advent of technology. Vincent, who has been a typewriter for about 40 years, admits the phenomenon has affected patronage of his service, but says most internet cafe operators know next to nothing about his clerical services.
Those communication, cafe communication shops, they don't know our work. At times, when you even send a common application go, they cannot even compose it. And these are our documents, legal documents. They don't even they don't know much about it. And some of the things, they do come to me to plan them for them to go to the computer to do it. Most of them, we know the job more than them. But their machines, the computer types better or does more things than the typewriter. But if I were to do it on computer, do my work on computer, I think that would be more facile than, better than on the typewriter.
He tells me, though he is visually impaired, he does his job with so much accuracy.
Me, I don't have good sight, but mistakes I hate. And this is direct service. When you don't satisfy the customer, he does not pay, he won't pay. When they see mistakes and they want to do that, then I'll correct them for them. Those who are critical and they don't want to have the patience, I let them go. But mistakes, I don't make mistakes. At times type things on the typewriter, when they send to the computer, they can see better, but they copy them wrongly. When I'm typing, whether you are drumming, you are shouting, my mind is on this thing. When concentration is perfect.
This work has contributed immensely to the family of Vincent.
I have 4 children, 2 girls and 2 boys. And then I have dependents too from my website. That's why we are all about 11 or 12. So, and from this table we all eat. As for getting the jobs too, that one there is not constant. It's not every day that I get jobs. Since, all the while you came, I think only one person came to us, and whether he will be able to come back, that is the thing. So the job has been alternating.
How long does he intend doing this job?
I still have children going to school, and I'm their breadwinner. So if I don't work, I cannot go and beg in the street. I cannot do that. Once I can work and make money for their sustenance, I believe I'm motivated to work.
His last child, 18-year-old Matilda Basso, tells me the impact of her father.
I always wish to help him, to always come to Nima, and maybe when he needs an assistance to help, I assist him and read whatever is to type in the letter. I love him so much for whatever he has been doing for me, even though the money is not there that much. But
a captivating piece there by Beverly Bram. That's how we end Prime Business. Coming up next is Prime Sports.